I made this video specifically for people in my database that I've spoken to at some point who've been thinking about buying either for the first time or selling their existing home and purchasing a new one, but have been on the fence and feeling very uncertain as to when is the best time to take action. This video is for you, but really it's for anyone else who's in that same boat, regardless of whether or not we've connected yet or not. And if we haven't had a chance, my name is Morgan Little. I'm a realtor here in Toronto who, on top of helping my clients buy and sell homes, also tries to provide as much value as possible to those interested in learning more by doing videos like this. I understand it's tough to know when the right time is to make a move when you see headlines about interest rates going crazy and then we hear that the market is a bubble and it's going to come crashing down at any minute. Who wouldn't feel nervous about making potentially the biggest purchase of your life amongst so much uncertainty? So what I'd like to do is wade through all the noise and try to simplify things for you. The truth of the matter is the market is not going to come crashing down around us. I truly believe that. Now, that isn't to say that there couldn't be more of a correction, as we have seen prices come down from the all-time highs that we saw in 2022. Housing is a market and it will fluctuate at different times. But if you look at a historical graph of the housing market in Toronto or anywhere else in Ontario or Canada for that matter, you will see that over time the market trends upwards. That's just a simple fact. And the truth is people will continue to need housing and we don't have enough of it. Supply and demand shows us that as long as there's a demand for housing, it will hold value. And the idea should be that you're going to live in your home for 5, 10, maybe 15 years. The goal shouldn't be to see massive increases in your property value in 1 or 2 years. Some have recently, but that's not the norm. So the real question isn't when is the best time to buy. The question should be when is the right time for you to buy. And that's really the only thing that matters. And to figure that out, there's 2 main questions you should ask yourself. Number 1, am I ready? And within that, have I saved up a down payment? And that could be as low as 5%, but then you will need mortgage insurance, or ideally 20%. Especially if the home is over $1 million, which in Toronto is not hard to find, then you'll be required to have that 20%. And then you can ask, am I willing to live in the home for a bare minimum of 5 years, but probably more like 10, like I mentioned? Do I have some savings left over once I pay that down payment to cover closing costs and then future maintenance? So that's number 1. Am I actually prepared to make this purchase? And then the second question, and I'll preface this with get pre-approved, which will help you answer the question in the first place. Am I comfortable making the monthly payments that go along with owning a house? That includes your mortgage payment, as well as property tax, insurance, utilities, and potential maintenance. Unless you're looking at a condo, then you'll have a maintenance fee you'll have to consider. But based on my monthly take home, can I cover these things and not leave myself house poor? These are the 2 main qualifiers to help you figure out if you're ready to buy a home. Forget all the other stuff. It's just noise. Keep it simple. If you can answer yes to those 2 questions, then guess what? You're probably in a pretty good position to buy. And I'll go through a few steps in a minute here to guide you through the rest of the process. But first, if you can't honestly answer yes to both those questions, then maybe right now is not the time for you. But this gives you a good place to start planning. It shows you exactly what you need to work on to get to a place where you can confidently answer yes to those questions. So don't get discouraged. Make a plan. How can I start putting more savings towards my down payment? Or how can I start to earn a bit more if I'm not getting pre-approved for a mortgage that makes sense for me? Dig deep, be honest with yourself, and answer these questions, and then commit to working towards your goal. Now, here's the 7-step process to buying a home in Ontario. Number 1, as I mentioned earlier, a great first step is to get pre-approved for a mortgage. What does that mean exactly? Well, essentially, this will tell you how much home you can afford based on your down payment, your amount of income, and credit history, and some other factors. Speak to a mortgage broker who can guide you through this process. Reach out, I'd be happy to recommend someone. This is a crucial and way too often overlooked step. People get excited and just start looking at homes on Toronto Property Finder or Realtor.ca. But if you find out you're only approved for a $600,000 house after you've been looking at $850,000 homes, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. So start here. Number 2, find a realtor that's a good fit for you. You're not going to vibe with everyone, and that's fine. You should work with someone you can connect with and build trust with. This person should ask you questions to help you clarify what your wants and your needs are so both of you are on the same page when house hunting. And that brings us to number 3, start house hunting. This is the fun part, but should really only happen once you've got a clear vision of what you really want. And it may take some viewing to help structure that vision, so I always recommend doing what's called an exploratory tour to begin with. where you line up some homes to go out and view that fit your criteria, just to go out and look without any pressure of, is this the one we're gonna buy? Just go have a look, and I promise it'll really help you clarify in your mind what will work for you and what won't. And hey, if you find one in that process, that's amazing. Now I'm gonna breeze through some of these next steps because there's obviously a lot of detail I could be going into, but we can cover this stuff during our consultation and once we get past the first 3 steps. The next step is make an offer. Getting an accepted offer is a whole other journey on its own, and I'll walk you through that process, which includes putting down a deposit, but it all starts with making an offer. And number 5, once we get that offer accepted, we would fulfill any conditions that we may have included in the offer. These could be financing, where your lender needs to give final approval on the property. Could be an inspection clause that could get included, or any number of other possibilities depending on the type of home we're offering on. Or maybe none at all if all your ducks are in a row and the home appears solid. Number 6, closing. Once conditions are fulfilled and we have a firm deal, the mortgage broker will communicate with the lender, let you know any steps that you need to take, and the lawyers on each side will communicate with each other to finalize closing documents. During this time, you will take steps to transfer utility accounts, change your address where it needs to be, book your moving truck, all that good stuff. And number 7 is closing day, where you get the keys to your new house and you start moving in. As I mentioned, there's a lot more to the process, but those are basically the 7 steps to buying a home. As you can see, there's a lot of moving pieces, and that's why it's important to work with a professional who you feel confident in. Now, if you feel ready and you'd like to have a conversation around starting your journey, or if you just have questions about the process in general, feel free to book a call with me using my Calendly link in the description below, and I look forward to chatting. Until then, be well.